Welcome to The Centurion's Path, a podcast about the life and the trials and tribulations of those who serve. This podcast is about the heroes who protect our communities. To truly understand the path of the protector, tune in with AJ DeAndrea and John McDonald, two nationally known leaders who live the Centurion's Path every day.
Thank you all for joining us today. To our sponsor for today's podcast, Safe Haven Defense. Preserving property, protecting lives, providing peace of mind. Hey everybody, John McDonald, AJ DeAndrea, Season 2.
Season 2.
The Centurion's Path.
Who the heck would have thought?
It's pretty cool.
Right? It is pretty cool.
We brought you from Alaska to Columbia, Missouri, so you didn't sleep for like 36 hours.
Yeah, I'm definitely sleep deprived.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's well worth it.
You have a good
well
week of training, though.
It's been a good week. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a good week. Alaska was great.
What were you training up there?
It was the FBI National Academy the Alaska Association. They do annual training.
Okay.
And so it was for leadership, just trying to get them grounded on some of the important things. And it's like a 3-day conference. So
Okay.
I had them for about 4 hours
Nice.
on Wednesday. It was crazy, right? I got there at 2,300 hours, 11 o'clock at night on Tuesday. Spoke at 8 o'clock in the morning, done at noon. And my flight was midnight to come see you.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
And I can't sleep on the plane.
No. So you flew to Denver, then flew here.
Flew to Denver. That was my connection flight. Yeah, I had a little layover there. It came here. Of course, we had a great dinner last night, but more importantly, the conference you guys are doing here is amazing. That's what
We're really
250
excited.
People or so?
Yeah, 250 leaders in law enforcement and education, school safety, and of course we had you keynote this morning and you knocked it out of the park. It was fantastic.
I don't know if I knocked it out of the park, but
It was great,
at least they sat in their seats.
right? They were really excited. You can tell because the line was 20 deep to come talk to you afterwards. So,
That's always a nice feeling.
right. So that was great. And what do you got coming up? Where are you heading to?
Oh, I've got. I'm back. I'm teaching a single officer response class tomorrow in town, right there in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and then some range work on Sunday, and then I go up to Canada on Wednesday. Come back from there, do a bunch more firearm stuff right up till Christmas, and then I don't have much. I think until like January 11th.
Wow.
Or January 9th or something like that.
2 whole weeks at home.
Yeah.
You won't know what to do with yourself.
Exactly. I know. It'll be
Good
nice.
deal.
Go
Good
watch
deal.
my cows.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Now that we're both in the cattle business.
Yeah, now that we're both ranchers, right?
Yeah.
For the listeners, John has one steer.
His name is Bocephus.
Yeah.
He's about 1,600 pounds right now.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
And I have 2 bred cows. The one I'm selling to my neighbors who they named Chelsea. And mine is Carmela. But they're due to calve in May. And I'll keep them on the property till late summer, and then I'll sell them and I'll buy 2 more.
There you go.
I got to play the game with
Yeah.
taxes, agriculture, keep myself agriculture.
There
So
you
yeah,
go.
so it's been an experience. It's been fun. That's for
It's
sure.
tough being a rancher, I got to admit. Having one steer is rough work. I always said that I wanted one steer, so when people say, how many head of cattle you running? I can say 1.
Yeah.
Oh, 1 head rancher.
There you go.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
So I lived up to that dream.
That's right. Right.
I'm heading to Vegas this next week with Brian Krause.
Good.
And we're doing a conference there. So full-day conference with Clark County schools and I think other school districts in the Nevada area. So
Very cool.
excited to do that. And then that's going to be it for me the rest of this year
Good.
because I'm just tired and
You and I both.
need a little break.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't know I was going to work this hard in retirement.
I know, right? Yeah, I tell people I have failed,
Yeah.
but it's good work, right?
It is good work.
It's good work. Busy, keeps the brain engaged.
Yeah.
Still feel like you're contributing, and don't have to answer to a city manager or a mayor or a city council and deal with all that.
And,
So
and you
it's-
make sure your audience knows that too.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yes, I do. Right.
That's funny. Hey, we got a guest today.
Yes, we do.
So we're going to take a little break and we're going to invite her in. And we're going to interview a reporter.
Yes,
It's
we are.
our time to
It's our time to interview a reporter.
Put her on the hot spot. Yeah. She's on the hot seat now. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Safe haven defense, preserving property, protecting lives, providing peace of mind.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Our guest today is Anastasiya Bolton, former retired now reporter.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm failing at retirement as
failing
well.
at retirement
Yep,
too?
Yep.
Anastasia has won 7 Emmys, and she is the reporter that convinced me many, many years ago to actually do an interview after chasing me and stalking me for a year before she convinced me to actually talk on camera.
I was a nice stalker. Is there such thing as a
Yeah.
nice stalker?
No,
not in
that's
the,
all right.
not in
It
the
was
police.
it was a good outcome. How about that?
Yeah, it was.
I was harassed.
Oh, wow.
But, it worked out well. And here I am today podcasting.
Yeah, you're
all
welcome,
because-
everybody. I
all
feel like
because she put me in front of the camera.
yeah, I feel like I did this
Many years
all this.
ago.
You created this monster.
Yes, I did. Yes,
We're excited to have you here.
thanks.
Yes, we are.
Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've interviewed AJ before.
Many times, yes.
You've interviewed me before.
Yes.
You spent a career in crime and investigative journalism.
Yeah.
And covered a lot of tragedy.
Yeah, it was hard to watch your presentation just now because some of those were incidents, shootings
Yeah.
that I covered.
Yeah, near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, some just from a different perspective. It was illuminating and very emotional to watch and listen to what you had to say and how your response was shaped and what you learned after that.
Yeah. It wasn't meant to be emotional by any means, but it's the presentation that I did was mainly about mindset and preparation, and I think it sparked some thoughts in the room, right? Maybe touched a chord a little bit about the importance of being prepared and not learning you're not making the same mistakes over and over again, which
Right.
we unfortunately have a tendency to do. But I was happy to see you sitting in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was amazing to be a part of the presentation instead of just interviewing you or
Different side.
Yeah,
different side.
different
You've
side.
probably
I
you've
let
never
you-
seen before.
no, but you're supposed to interview me this time around.
We are.
How do
We
you
are.
want to see how
So-
this goes?
So,
Yeah.
when we invited you here to keynote yesterday
Yeah.
to talk about crisis communications, because I think it's one of our big failure points.
Yes, it is.
In every critical incident I've ever worked, when we've had failures, we can look at communications and say what we haven't said, how transparent we weren't, when we fail to communicate, when we fail to get in front of the community. It all leads back to, that crisis communication preparation, like everything else.
Yeah.
Unless we're practicing, preparing, and planning for it, then we're not going to succeed on our given day. And, whether you go back 25 years and look at the same failures time after time in communications. So we spent a day with crisis communications. Now we're spending the day in emergency operations and planning and preparing. And so I just brought in the two people I knew that could cut through the audience and get that message across. So what did you think yesterday, being on stage, talking about
The Aurora Theater
the
show.
Aurora Theater shooting?
It's always emotional. It's, what I want to do is to, in the short time allowed, to bring folks some of the lessons that I learned as a reporter. I co-present with a public information officer who worked that scene on the law enforcement side, and sort of what I like to do in some of my bigger trainings is to take people into sort of the mindset, as you talk about, and the strategy, right? Because all the details of a given incident, if they're not the responder, they're not going to remember. But it's the strategy that could help them and shift their mindset and help them make a good decision when, as you say, when their day comes. And that day may not be a mass casualty event, right? Because you and I talk about crisis could be anything. Crisis could be a blizzard, or crisis could be a student setting themselves on fire in a school, which you and I have done, or missing students. So the key is preparation. And that's what struck me. I have an addition to your PowerPoint that you can chew on. You know, one of your pillars for preparation is communication, right? Because I think we continue to fail to communicate with our community. Whether you want to communicate through the media, whether you decide that you're going to go straight through your social media channels, whatever your plan is, but you have to have a plan.
Right.
What are you going to tell them? Are they safe? Do they have actionable items? If you're doing an evacuation, say in a wildfire in Colorado, we have that a lot.
Right.
And then what else can you tell them about what happened?
Right.
In the words that they can understand.
Right.
I mean, you have a gift for that, but you've also had years and years of practice, you know?
Yes.
But you know what I'm saying? I'm guessing you've seen your colleagues, right, at press conferences?
Oh, yes.
Have you ever
Yeah.
wondered, what are you doing at the podium? What are those words?
More than once. More than once, right? And becomes extremely frustrating. Sometimes I think because of the environment we're in, they rush to get a statement out and might be a little bit too soon, or it's not well thought out, right? Like we have to make a statement, but there's no meaning or true purpose to it, right? And I think that creates more problems because as more information comes out, then it may look like, hey, they were hiding this initially or what's going on.
I see what you're saying.
But you're right. I mean, to be able to have that strategy in place, understand the importance of it, and the accuracy of the information they're sharing becomes critical.
Well,
Because it sets the tone. It sets the tone for everything after that. Right?
Everything else.
and the speed now in which you're expected to say something because of social media
Yes.
moving so fast is just adds another complexity to it.
Right.
And what do you put out when the community is already talking about it and you're still on scene trying to figure it out? So,
I mean, we all talk about the fact that you can never do this alone. This is not a single person exercise or an event. So it doesn't matter if you're in a large community where you have resources or if you're in a community of one. You know, we had a superintendent stand up yesterday and say, well, I'm a driver, I'm a custodian, I'm also superintendent, I'm also all of these other things, right? So who do you have in your community? What other agencies can you pull together so you create a team of people for you?
Right.
We talk about that, and you have to create that team now before something happens because you need to know Bob's number, who's going to help you manage social media, right? Or Mary, who's going to help you man the phones. And I have an idea for the quickness of information and how to handle that. What we teach is you put out information, but you tell me 20 times before and after. This is preliminary, it's going to change.
Right.
I'm here to talk to you because I know this is important and you guys want to know what's going on. In this moment, I know this, but this is very, very early on and it can change. And you have a lot of grace for about 24 hours. You have a lot of grace with preliminary information. It's the after
Right.
that you need want correct things. So that's,
Without question. No.
that's
you're
my
dead on.
media position. I know you're shocked that I would want more information right away.
Yeah,
I know
imagine
it comes as a surprise.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
The reporter wants more information.
Right.
I don't know how that happened.
I know there have been days where my phone blows up and it's just Anastasia
Listen,
demanding answers.
demanding. Wow, he's
You're very-
painting
you're
me
very-
as a
you're-
really abusive person.
You're very demanding.
I am just like him. I'm strong-headed. I have a hard time
kidding.
taking no for an answer. I know you don't want to be associated with the media, or am I okay?
No, I have no issues with
Yeah.
the media. None at all. I've had great relationships with the media throughout my career.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely some reporters I don't trust, but I've had good relationships. Yeah. So. And I always trusted you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Always trusted you.
I would tell a funny Anastasia story.
More than stalking?
More than
It
stalking.
gets funnier? Okay.
It does.
Okay.
We had a wildfire in Colorado, pretty bad wildfire, and media was flocking to our high school because it was being used as a reunification site for families, and it was going to become a Red Cross shelter. And Anastasia was on scene, and I was talking to her, and CNN pulled up, and they were just jerks. They were absolute jerks. And they wanted to come in the school. I said no, and they wanted to do an interview, and I said I don't have time. And they said, what's it going to take to do an interview? And I said, you got to get permission from Anastasiya Bolton.
How I did not get blacklisted, I don't know. I did not sanction the use of my name in this way.
They said, what? And I said, I can only do interviews if she approves it.
You became his official press person right there. Right?
This was unknown to me. This was not a sanctioned use of my name, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started saying that to reporters all over Denver.
I think
When they would ask questions, I would say, well, I'm not going to go on camera unless you get permission from her. And I just found it to be a great joke because they would all get very irritated.
It's super entertaining.
Yeah. I only did interviews with you exclusively for several years.
Yeah.
And then you left us. So then I had to do interviews
I
with
know,
others.
but I prepared you.
You did.
We had a
You
lot of
did.
training.
Yeah.
Speaking of training,
Yeah.
right? You talk about, tabletops are great. I was taking notes
Good.
from your presentation.
Good.
Tabletops.
Probably the only one in the room taking notes, but that's okay.
You wanted
But you're a
somebody.
reporter. You're a reporter, right?
Again,
I would expect nothing else.
nothing less. I'm glad I still meet your expectations. But you're talking about, the difference between the tabletop and the actual practice, right? That's why you guys go up to a gun range. That's why you had, or still have, the DeAngelis Training Center in Jefferson County, which is an actual, previously used as a middle school, but now law enforcement and first responders train there for actual scenarios. Media training is no different. Mm-hmm. You can call it media training if you want. You can call it communications training. You can call it communications plan. You can put whatever label makes you happy. But the information that you're going to put out, do you have a plan? And how are you going to do it?
Right.
And then practice it, because then what happens is, I showed an example yesterday, a couple of examples where people unfortunately babble their way through that, and I'm like, I don't know what you just told me. I don't know how many are dead. I have no idea of the significance of the team that you brought in, because you just did a title thing, and I'm like, wait, is that what they do when they train together with firefighters and cops? Is that what that is? Right. Oh yeah, that is. Somebody who covered law enforcement exclusively for 7 years. Right. So what is a normal person in distress? And they understand that.
And we get wrapped up doing that a lot, where we talk in terms of, people don't understand what, a CERT team is, RTF, RAID, all that stuff. And so I know my profession, or my previous profession, needs to do better on talking in just more realistic terms that helps people understand what we're trying to get done. Right?
You are doing something really interesting to me. So this podcast, AJ and I talked about this in our last episode. We don't have a plan when we sit down. We just start talking.
Right.
And inevitably, almost every podcast that we've done has had a mental health component to it.
Yes.
Of really post-traumatic growth, of
That's what we aspire for, is post-traumatic.
That's absolutely right. So you have been really open about teaching new reporters on how to cope with the trauma that they're going to be exposed to. And it fits so well with our podcast, because we all have trauma. We all have been through significant events in our lives. Every listener has, everyone watching. And I love the fact that you've taken this and focusing on a group that frankly has had no focus in the past. Nobody's sat down with reporters and said, when you're all done, you're going to walk away with a lot of trauma and a lot of ghosts.
Nobody told me that in J school. Journalism school. See, I just did that. I just did my own lingo. In journalism school, didn't talk about it. Nobody taught me that.
And how important is that? I mean, what would that have done for you if you'd known, or if you'd had some idea of what was coming?
It would have been life-changing. I mean, I think if someone, at least on the basic level, said you're going to experience really traumatic events, you're going to talk to people who are going to download their trauma on you, that is going to affect you profoundly, and it is okay to seek help. We've talked about how law enforcement struggles with that.
Yes.
No one tells you in my profession, or told in my profession, I left 2 years ago, that it's okay to seek help. I always felt that, well, I have a job to do. There's still stories to be told. I'm the best one to tell them. I know the incident or whatever it is inside and out, and it's not my place. It's not about me. It's about them. I'm guessing you connect with that.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Totally.
And so you don't go out and you don't seek help. And then you find yourself with a friend who calls John Nicoletti on you and says, yeah, you gotta talk to that person. Right. The way that I remember you told on me is he calls me and he says, Anastasia, are you making an appointment, or am I making one for you? Because I lost my composure, and not in an interview, just in a conversation. I lost my composure on a certain day after the Aurora Theater shooting in the beginning. The gravity of that. Yeah. And then there's more. More happened.
And I told you at the time, when I called Dr. Nicoletti, who's a dear friend of all three of us, you credit him with the fact you're sitting upright.
Without question.
In some of my darkest days, I've talked to him, and he's been amazing, right? He just does amazing work. But I remember telling you that day, when I knew you were struggling, you were in crisis, and you called me afterwards, and you said, I can't believe you did that. And I said, this is what we do for those we love.
Yeah, you do this for your friends, yes.
Because I learned from AJ, we are our brother's keepers, we are our sister's keepers. Mm-hmm. If we're not taking care of each other, then shame on us, and then we're not doing our duty to protect. Right. So I just remember after you met with him and you called me and you said, I can't believe you did this. Yep. And I said, are you doing okay? And you said, yeah, I've got more appointments scheduled with him.
I did.
And I was so thankful because I know what he does for first responders, for reporters, for families that have been impacted. Right? I mean, that's a life's work for him. Yeah. And that's a man that's been on the scene of 18 mass casualty events. He's seen a lot, and he keeps us all upright.
Yes, he does.
So,
and in some way, we keep him upright, believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we give him, I tell him all the time, he can retire 10 times over after all the therapy sessions he's given all of us. But good man, and it's a commonality sitting here at this table, understanding the importance of taking care of each other, taking care of families and self.
And part of what, again, we didn't know this podcast was going to even head down this road a little bit, always with that mental health component, but it's breaking the stigma.
Yeah.
Right, breaking the stigma and understanding that these things affect us. Like, they get imprinted on you, right? You're interviewing someone, it's imprinted on you, it is now part of you. And just saying, hey, it's okay if we're having a rough time, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes, even if I'm not having a rough time, just to check in, right? To be a little preemptive about the whole thing. That mental health becomes so critical. And for all of us, there's times where we probably didn't take as good a care of ourselves as we should have. But knowing that we have that help and we can reach out at any time is critical. And that's part of the message we want from this show, is to say, hey, listen, if you are struggling a little bit, it's normal. Yeah. Right? It's actually a little not normal if you're not, or you're really blessed. You're a really blessed individual, but just pay attention to it, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. Just, do the check-ins if you need to, and don't be afraid, right? Just reach out and just get a little bit of help. Make yourself a little bit better. So.
Yeah. I think asking for help, I think us talking about it, really the goal for me always when I discuss my own struggles with everything that I've covered is it's okay to ask for help. You should ask for help. It's okay to seek help. And one of the other aspects that I'm really passionate about is educating the managers that when a person comes to you and is asking for help, that you need to hear them, because I have a story for that. So it's the Aurora Theater shooting happened in July. It's October, and I am months into, we're interviewing the families of people who were killed. We're interviewing the families of those who survived. I'm going to court. There's documents coming out. It's a lot. And so I ask one of my bosses, give me one day, just one day off from death. You can assign me anything else, which is almost counterintuitive because I don't want to go to some random thing that's not interesting. I like I like my beat. I like law enforcement. And so I can't even remember where I was sent to do something else. But then I get a call, hey, we need you to go to a scene of 5 people stabbed to death and then burned to death at a bar. And I'm like, wait. Remember, this is my day off from death. I was,
right.
And that person's like, well, it's not Aurora.
Yeah, just a lack of understanding, right?
What do you say to
Empathy,
that?
compassion. Yeah.
And so it's a whole system problem, right? From every angle. We don't talk about it. We don't accept when other people come to us and they need help. And I say we in a very general way. I mean, there's amazing people who are trauma informed and who are helpful and supportive, but we need to talk about these things.
I came to a realization that it's okay to take care of this. Listening to AJ, this is 2011. You're doing a presentation and he talked about the fact that we do a lot to protect ourselves. We wear a bulletproof vest, we carry this big equipment belt with all sorts of tools to protect us. We've got shields, we've got helmets, and we've got all sorts of stuff. But what are you doing to protect what's in here? And it was a moment, kind of a watershed moment for me where I'm sure I look like my dog. Turn my head to the side, or maybe like Scooby-Doo doing the room.
Yeah.
But it was a moment where I thought, oh, that makes sense. So what I realized though, and I was talking to my wife the other day about it, because she was joking with me that this network that we have, this group that we have, that's been through so much. She said, do you realize that over the last 17 years, all the significant crisis that you've worked, the same people have been there with you throughout it. You worked the same cases. You worked you covered the same story. You were all there, so it's a shared experience. What I was thinking about in the aftermath of that conversation is that for anybody in this work, who are your pillars of support? Who are those people that you're surrounding yourself with that are going to carry you, lift you up on rough days, and be there for you on great days too? And I wish that for everybody.
Yeah.
But I really think you need to be aware that that is needed. So it goes back to it's a relationship business. Put the time and the effort into building the relationships so that in your great days, your best friends, and on your worst days, your best friends are right there holding up and standing with you, and you're doing this together. So, there's a lot to that. And we never mean for this conversation to get so deep. It just does, because this is a really important topic.
Yeah.
It is. It
So,
is.
Can I add another layer of
yeah.
armor to
Yeah.
you real quick? I think in addition to not thinking about this and having all the external armor that you guys have to wear, I think there's also internal armor that protects your heart and soul.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that enough.
Right.
And because there's a protection here in order to get up in the morning and go do the next horrible thing or help, take a beaten child to a hospital.
Right.
I don't have to go through all the things that you do. The listeners have done it themselves. But that layer of protection right here is part of, I think, what you keep so tight and so close, because if that opens up and breaks or cracks in any way, the floodgate is going to open up, and then you can't put it back in.
Right.
And this layer that I think you guys keep is one of the things that prevents you sometimes from being emotional public speakers or connecting with the community, because you are organically very clinical and very much in order. You love bullet points. And order.
You did not see one bullet point in my presentation.
Not you specifically, not you. There is a friend of mine who I present with, bullet points and, just an order of events, right? At 1800, this happened on this street and this and this. People generally don't think like that. And when you guys are presenting information often and you don't emote at the appropriate time, or you are reading your name followed by, I'm so sorry this happened, never read statements of empathy or emotion.
Right.
That, I think, comes from maybe a place of, if I untighten just a little bit, the little screws or the things that are holding this thing together.
Yeah. It's all going to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do a very good job of it. People they talk about mental health days, how important that is, and I first admit I'm terrible at it. You took a mental health day the other day. You went pheasant hunting.
I did.
And you said you told me you weren't going to do it. Then you decided I owe it to my dog.
We are so proud of you. Can you teach him to do that?
I try.
No.
He took one. I made him come out to Colorado. We went to a CU football game against his alma mater.
Oh, that's right. You
North
told
Dakota
me.
State. So I made him take one.
Yeah, that was a great time.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, you would have never been able to do that before you retired. I mean, you still can't. But you just decided.
I mean, I did.
to.
You would go, but you can't totally check out, right? And this trip was totally checked out. I brought my phone.
Dog.
The only reason why I brought my phone with me because I wanted to take pictures of him if we got a retrieve, and he did amazing. And he's 11, so he doesn't got a lot of seasons left in him, and I wanted him to have a few more birds in his mouth, and he did amazing.
There you go.
He did
What's
amazing.
his name?
Santino. Yes.
Good boy.
Santino. He's a good boy. So.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So we've decided that all three of us sitting here have retired and failed at retirement.
Yes.
Totally.
And so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and the importance of some of that.
Just like you guys, I couldn't leave this knowledge that I've gotten through 20-something years in broadcast television and messaging. I couldn't leave that behind. Like, what is all the trauma for? Like, it can't be worthless, right? So I'm using the experiences that I had with you guys and through other stories that I've done that are not only mass violence to help law enforcement and in private sector become better communicators. Because for me, especially as the professional journalism corps is shrinking, how are you going to show up and communicate with whomever you need to talk to if you cannot come across as credible, believable, genuine? If you come out like that, you cannot build trust, you do not build understanding. So I help people get better at that, because we all have that inside, right? Because we come home and we tell our spouses, partners, this happened and this is how it affected me. But somehow something happens when we show up in front of a thing like this, whether we're in front of a gaggle of reporters on social media, and you completely lose any humanity. And I think, if I may, and I know you're going to call me BS if I say something that's, not right. I think one of the many issues in law enforcement that leads to problems with recruiting, problems with retention, problems with community trust, is that you guys do not do a really good job of telling people what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. So I think that there is an inherent mistrust. There have been obviously very public national incidents that impacted the trust in law enforcement. But aside from that, on the day-to-day, people do not know what you do, really, truly. They don't understand the why you do it. They don't understand why it looks a certain way, sometimes in a very violent way in a body cam video. And again, I am taking off the table the incidents that have been documented where people went to prison. I am taking that off the table. I am talking about a proper arrest, a justified shooting, a response to a home on a domestic. I'm talking about things that you do on the day-to-day. And my belief is that if people do not understand what somebody does, they fill in the blanks however it suits them, and it does not play well for law enforcement.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, right? You do the job, it's what you do, it's part of your life, you're doing it every day, and you think that people understand it, and you take that for granted, and they don't. And then you throw in emotions, because it is an emotional thing, whether the body cam is, like you said, it's violent, or it's this or it's that, there's a loss of life, there's emotional with the fact of, it could be, like I said, snowstorm, right? And we got streets closed down, we're doing stuff, and we're not communicating well. That emotion comes in, and then it becomes really hard to overcome, especially when there's the lack of understanding, right? So no, you're spot on with that. And I think what you're doing out in the arena, trying to help administrators and agencies and executives to communicate better is critical, right? I think I told you when I was at the FBI NA, one of the classes that it wasn't required, but it was highly recommended was, the media relations course. And in sitting in there and just watching, senior executives at their agencies in a relatively friendly environment have a hard time,
Right?
Because they had the cameras up and the podium and the, all the mock stuff, all that. It is definitely something that, and that's why I posted on LinkedIn your course to say, hey, listen, this is a, highly recommend reaching out to you to get that additional training. Because it's just like anything else, right? Yeah. It's a perishable skill. It is a perishable skill, just like everything else we do, and it is so critical. And you've heard me say this a million times, John, right? That when, I don't care who you are, brand new officer, chief of police, executive of an organization, we all make our money doing the same three things. We make decisions, we communicate, and we listen. And if we fail at one of those three, we are setting ourselves way back, and it becomes much harder to be able to go forward and be successful in whatever the endeavor is. So,
one of my biggest pet peeves, right? You talked about breaking down barriers and walls in your presentation, and I'm feeling that I'm not by any means as amazing as you, but I'm thinking about what if I've come up with this concept, am I insane for thinking that? But when you said just now that the media relations course was highly recommended but not mandatory, do we not see a problem in that?
yeah.
What do you teach your recruits in your academy? You just sort of verbally, like storytelling, say, stay away from the media, you cannot trust the media, right? And you teach them all the tactics, and now, obviously you teach them improved tactics based on lessons learned, and you teach them how to breach. And de-escalate. You teach them all of these things that will hopefully save their life and protect the community. You never teach them how to talk about it in a normal is such a, I don't know how else to say it, but once you're in this profession, I don't think you ever consider yourself a civilian, right? Maybe even now. how you.
I'm a civilian.
I need you not to be a civilian when you're in my vicinity. But I don't just help me describe this because it's not a normal conversation.
You're spot on though, because what they learn is how to testify in court, right?
That's so different.
Which is yes, no. You can't elaborate in court because they're going to hammer you.
Yep.
We don't spend time on how do we address the public, how do we do, just basic public speaking, which is, a fear from a lot of the population out there, right? People don't like to speak, but you're spot on, and that's why what you're doing is critical.
Thank you.
Critical to be out there and helping, because again, a violent arrest is ugly.
Yeah.
But if we can explain to what's going on and people understand it, it doesn't take the ugliness away, but there's the understanding of why that happened the way that it went down, right? And so,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're not guaranteed, right, immediately on the first explanation of the first video, the very first time you do it, that people are going to be like, oh, great, I respect and trust police now, I'm going to be great, I'm going to be respectful, I'm going to be pulled over.
Wouldn't that be a wonderful world?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
It's not, it's
Fantasy land.
right. It's not, it's not a flip of a switch, but it is a consistent effort to communicate, right? It's the history and sort of like proof of performance, right?
Right.
For the last 6 years, here's what we've done. Please take a look at how we communicate, and eventually you hope to build trust, because your profession is not going away. I hope so. I need somebody to come to my house when I call 911.
Yeah.
I say this, and I'm like, my experience with law enforcement has always been positive, even when I've been pulled over. And I understand that there are complicated factors in that I look a certain way, that I've had positive experience based on work, and that not everybody's experience is that.
Right.
And I hurt for people whose experience has been negative and they're afraid of law enforcement. But we should do a better job of communicating what we do.
Sure.
And we should do a better job of saying, we're sorry, we blank. Can we cuss on the podcast?
You can cuss on this podcast.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Oh, great. We fucked up. Right?
Right.
You have to come out and say no, not like in general terms with, a passive sentence. I made the wrong decision. This is the result. Because you and I talk about this a lot. You're going to get sued no matter what. Right. That is a guaranteed thing. But no amount of money will buy you the trust and faith that your community has.
And credibility, right?
Yeah,
yes.
You just can't.
Well, look at Frank DeAngelis is a perfect example of this. He in the aftermath of the tragedy of Columbine, he brought flowers to every mother on Mother's Day just 3 weeks later, and was there saying, "I'm sorry," heartfelt, because he's all heart.
Yeah,
But it's okay to say, I feel terrible, my heart breaks for you.
Yeah.
It's just being human.
Yes.
So if an agency, an organization, a business wants to do media training, where do they find you?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
Anastasia Bolton. You can find Anastasia Bolton on LinkedIn. I know it's tough to spell Anastasia. I don't know how to fix that.
It is. I've spelt it wrong 10 different times.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry. If you Google Anastasia Bolton TV, then my right spelling will come up on, LinkedIn. Oh, I'm on your website.
You're on my website. Go to CSS.
No. I need
Leadership.
it in the radio voice.
Oh,
Radio voice. Okay, go
you
ahead.
need to go to cssleadership.org.
There we go.
So I'm on there too, but
Yeah, on there.
I believe in the mission. That's the thing. Working with public agencies that have limited funds, right, and have limited time and many responsibilities is hard.
Yes.
It would be easier to do just about anything else. In fact, my 9-year-old has an attitude that would be easier for me to handle than this. And he's a spitting image of me, which you wouldn't
Imagine that.
Yeah, I don't know
Imagine
how that happened. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
It's terrifying, actually, to think about.
I know.
A 9-year-old you.
I know, why would he come out just like me? It is so inconvenient. But I mean, you guys
It'll be
both.
good for him as he grows up, right?
Is it
Trust me.
right? That's what we're hoping for, right? But you
Yes.
guys, right? That's what we're hoping for, right? But you guys, both know me before I had him, and as all that came to be. But I just believe in the mission. That's why I talk to victim advocates and give them tools. Like, here's how you're gonna get immediate onslaught, but here's maybe how you can mitigate that, because these are the steps that I've taken over my career and that worked for me. I just believe in what you do. I really, if I had a magic wand, right, all of the horrible things that happen between law enforcement and civilians would never happen. I'm a dreamer, but I also just, people would have a better understanding of the importance of your profession, of the courage that it takes to do it. Maybe the frustration that you guys all feel when negative stories come out and they engulf the entire profession in the country. There's been lots of disappointing incidents where I had to call or text. Text a friend, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this, and this is 77 minutes is unacceptable.
Right.
But there's nobility in what you do, and I just want people to feel even a shred of that, because I feel that way towards you guys. I'm probably going to get pummeled for this from people who are anti-law enforcement, but whatever.
Too bad. Well,
That's all right.
if they're anti-law enforcement, they're not
They're
listening to
probably
this
not listening to
podcast.
this podcast, right? Yeah.
But I just, I have to come out and say how I feel and
Yes.
my experiences. I want others to have the respect. I mean, I'm definitely teaching my mouthy son respect for law enforcement. That he does.
Good.
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 It has been a pleasure to have you on this podcast.
An honor, you guys.
We are thrilled.
Yes, very much so.
You guys are-
Look forward to more work together, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We end every podcast the same way.
We do.
AJ?
So, this is a toast.
I was provided a water.
There you
Stand by.
go. All right.
There we go.
Like I said, it'd be better if we were doing this with bourbon. One day we're actually going to do it with bourbon. I don't think we ever have. And John doesn't drink bourbon, so.
Well, we can pour him something else. It's like we could have been drinking now, but okay.
Yeah, if we didn't have a 2-hour drive back to Kansas City.
Yeah, that's fine.
But this toast goes all the way back to the Roman legions, right? And to us and those like us, the centurions, damn few left.
Damn few left.